Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The challenge of delivering capabilities to warfighters at a faster rate is hardly a new problem for the Defense Department. But with the rise of artificial intelligence and cloud services, there may be no better opportunity to shift the timetable and accelerate delivery. For more on how the Marine Corps is cutting down the time it takes to deliver capabilities, Federal News Network's executive editor Jason Miller talked to David Raley, the Chief Digital Business Officer of the Marine Corps Community Services, about a platform that is cutting down the time to delivery to as little as 15 minutes.
Operation Stormbreaker, for our own organization, for Marine Corps Community Services, we were choked by the same two things. The most visible thing is that ATO process. People see that as this kind of like, it's really like a tip of an iceberg with a lot of other underlying problems, but that's what's most obvious because you're delayed because we don't have an ATO. So we were experiencing those same set of bottlenecks in our organization. So back in the early 2020 into 2021, started addressing that problem. We built a greenfield capability, cloud native enclave to support this modernization effort for our own organization. Following all the DOW CIO guidance for CATO, DevSecOps, and all kind of the modern things, and mirroring ourselves to the highest degree we can with both commercial technology and commercial support and commercial best practices in modern ways to actually deliver software. And fast forward all the way to the end, we now have a mature technically and cybersecurity and compliance platform that allows us to deliver workloads into production within 15 minutes with an authorization. And so that's the time compression we're talking about, going from spending 12 to 18 months. And furthermore, I was really pleased to see the outgoing DON CIO last year issue a memorandum around all development done in containerization and all the other guidance, the acting DOW CIO, Ms. Arrington, and her Swift Software Initiative and the blowing up RMF, all those things oriented around the same exact problem, Jason, that you've been talking about, right? Which is how do you actually capability enhance the warfighter at the speed of relevance? And at the speed of relevance, 15 minutes is probably getting pretty close to that. What we have to also do is support and reduce the risk from a security and especially from a security and compliance perspective related to experimentation and innovation. And so Stormbreaker specifically supports that as well, because when you're leveraging CI/CD pipelines and you're doing agile development and you can build and release even multiple times a day with a new authorization each time you do it through an automated process, now we're talking about how you can actually support that warfighter requirement to increase those cycle times. Our adversaries are not constrained by some of the things that we have constrained ourselves by, and they have ability to deliver much faster cycle times outcomes. So we need to be in front of that curve of that. And my dream would be that Operation Stormbreaker, the model of it, what it's doing, and there's other platforms across the Department of War that are doing the same thing, would be ubiquitously available to a mission owner so that they don't have to suffer through those agonizing components of trying to find a hosting environment, trying to figure out how to go through the acquisition piece, and suffer from those legacy compliance practices that just take multiple years.
Appreciate the background and kind of setting up what Operation Stormbreaker is trying to achieve. Let me maybe take a half a step back on a couple things. So you set up this cloud environment. Operation Stormbreaker is a service that you are providing other folks across the Marine Corps, the Navy, and DoD if they want it. Talk a little bit about how that works. Folks can bring, and it's a platform, but folks can bring their applications to live on the platform. Walk me through kind of that process too.
We had such a high degree of success in our own organization building this capability, and because, as is very often when you have the right modern architectures built on cloud, you have scalability. And so we quickly determined, this was kind of early last year, and we started to offer this platform and authorization as a service to other components across the Department of War, as you described. And what this looks like is we abstract away from the mission owner and their vendor, if they're using a vendor to deploy the application, all of the underlying platform work, the actual management of the security of the platform, and the ATO process. And we provide all of that as a service. And I think that's fairly unique across the Department of War, having a platform team being able to provide that holistically end to end. It's almost like a white glove, all-inclusive type of service. And so if you're a mission owner with no interest or capacity in cybersecurity or underlying infrastructure and things like that to support an application, but you have the need to quickly acquire some commercial technology as an example, an application to run, and you need a place to host an ATO. That's what Stormbreaker is specifically designed for. And we've now evolved a little bit. So the journey was we built this internally within our IT shop to satisfy our own needs. But because of its thing is we're actually pulling it out, it's become a business unit. And my anchor tenant is my own organization that has a bunch of workloads, but I'm now expanding and have multiple external customers, as you described, across supporting a few things out of DIU, which is really exciting for us, and then also with the Navy and the Marine Corps.
I was going to get to that in a second as well. Who else are some of your customers? Where are you at today? I also want to touch upon this idea of this white glove all-inclusive service. And you'd said, listen, if you're a mission owner and you don't have the underlying infrastructure or maybe don't have the capacity to say, can we get this through the ATO process? They can just come in and say to you, David, all right, we have this application that collects data from the edge, brings it back, runs it through the AI machine thingamabob, and then it helps us make decisions faster. They can just put that application on your platform and inherit like 80% of the controls or some high percentage of controls.
85.
That's Go ahead.
Yeah, 85.
85% of the controls.
Yeah.
And that's the decrease in time you're talking about. That's that speed.
No, that's not all of it. That's a part of it. And that's fairly common to say we have a landing zone. That's a technical term, where you actually have a tiered control inheritance enclave that supports the 85%. It's far deeper than that. So let me see if I can describe it in kind of simple terms. First, we'll start with its shared responsibilities model. So there are certain responsibilities that the platform team has when it comes to security controls and the authorization piece. We drive it, we manage it, we have all the requisite security and compliance staff that you might expect, ISMs and security control assessors and validator teams, and we fall under the Marine Corps' primary AO, Dr. Corbin. So we have that full, and that's provided as a service. The mission owner does not have to go and get their compliance people involved. So we leverage our own and provide that as a service. Secondly, the speed that I'm talking about is we focused. So as you mentioned, we have to look at the 15% delta, right? So the underlying enclave is going to provide the 85%. The mission owner is going to be responsible for that 15. Still, we support that process. Most of that looks like the actual security of the code, the software bill of materials, vulnerabilities that you have in it, or checking for secrets and other things like that. That process, to meet those requirements, we go through the code build process for container builds in our CI/CD pipeline, and through automation, we achieve the security or give feedback to the engineer team on what areas they may have issues, vulnerabilities, etc. So they'll push a build through the pipeline, get feedback within minutes, make the adjustments and do the remediation, push it back through and test it again. So it becomes somewhat of a self-service model from an ATO perspective, where they can achieve authorization once they can get through that pipeline, and then we release that into production. So that's where that 15 minutes comes from. So you position engineers and application teams to come in, and they have a place to experiment and play around that's secure. I don't really care how production ready your code is from an operational perspective. It could be a proof of concept, it could be an MVP, doesn't matter. Are you getting it through and getting it production ready from a security perspective? That's our role as a platform team, to support you. So that's where that speed comes from, and then that ability to support innovation and everything else. And it's also meeting the lofty goals that Department of War has had for years on shifting cyber left.
David Raley is the Chief Digital Business Officer of the Marine Corps Community Services. Listen and watch his full interview from Federal News Network's DoD Modernization Exchange on demand anytime on federalnewsnetwork.com. Subscribe to the Federal Drive wherever you get your podcasts.